Hey, Who fans, and welcome to the Big Blue Box podcast. My name's Gary.
My name's Adam.
And welcome back. This is episode 420.
Yeah!
Welcome back, Who fans, to another episode. We hope you have had a cracking few weeks since the last episode. We hope you've kept safe and well, and that you've all managed to do something Doctor Who
related.
I won that. That's only because I rolled it into one
Of
stupid word there.
Yeah. You and your cheating tactics.
You and your bloody
You've been practicing that, I know.
We were saying before we recorded we have to get our heads back into Doctor Who mode. Don't know if you know, listener, but we did a Blake 7 podcast over the last couple of months. Little shameless plug.
Yes.
Go and check it out. It's called Federation Strike, The Journey Through Blake 7. You can find it on all the podcast apps. We'll stick a link in the show note as well. But if you've not heard about it or whatever, we've been on the socials with it as well. All the links will be in all that stuff will be in the show notes. But it's very, very cool. And again, those of you that don't know, Adam is a lifelong Blake 7 fan. He's been bugging me for years to do a podcast about Blake 7. And we finally did it now that the Blu-ray sets have started to roll for that show. And I fell in love with that show, mate. It's been brilliant. So if you want to get my views as a newcomer to that and Adam's views, re-watching it for the millionth time as a lifelong fan, then check it out. It's a good one, that.
Yeah, we've had a great time reviewing that. I've loved doing the Blake 7 pod.
It's been very cool. So we are back in Doctor Who mode now that season 2 is upon us with Shooty's new stuff, new companion, and all that jazz. We'll get onto that in a second, but very quickly, dude, because I know we've had a few messages on socials already. When are we going to hear your thoughts on it? When are we going to get your review? We'll get to that in just a second. But Adam and I haven't caught up in a minute. So as Adam's in the US at the moment on different time zones and all that stuff. So, dude, how have you been since we last spoke? How's things out in the US?
Yeah, I'm having a great time. I'm back out in Texas for a couple of months, and we're on different time zones, which suits me better because I'm so bad at getting up in the mornings. Normally when we record, I'm all sleepy-eyed and I'm always late, and Gary's like, oh, where is he? And now it's like it's 2 p.m. my time, 7 p.m. No, it's 1 p.m. my time, 7 p.m. your time, and I'm fresh as a daisy, mate. I'm all up and full of energy, and it suits me much better. But for you, you're probably tired, just had your dinner and ready to go to bed. So I don't know, but yeah, otherwise, mate, all good here. Thanks. Yeah.
Good. Yeah, not tired yet. Not at that age yet where
not quite there yet.
7 p.m. has wiped me out. Well, hopefully not. We'll see how this review of the episode goes. Might be tired at the end of it.
I am very much looking forward to hearing what you think of this episode, mate, because I think, this is one of those I can't gauge, and I like it when we get an episode where I don't really know what you're going to think of it, because sometimes I'll watch it and I think, Gary won't have liked that, or Gary will have loved that one, or whatever. This one could go either way, and I don't know if you have any inkling if I liked it or not.
I'm also finding it difficult to gauge what your reaction's going to be to this one. I'll be honest with you.
Ah, good.
Yes. So, okay, cool. We will kick off then with our review. Before we get into that, as always, make sure you are following or subscribing to the Big Blue Box in your preferred podcast app of choice. That way you won't miss an episode when they land. At the moment, they'll be weekly as we go through season 2. And as we're on a seasonal format with the Blue Box now, we'll finish our reviews and then we'll have a break, and then whenever the next thing comes along, we will review that, which I believe is going to be the spin-off, hopefully, later this year. Yeah. And rinse and repeat. We'll come back with like bonus episodes and bits in between, of course, but you're with us now for the next 8 weeks as we go through season 2. So if you hit the follow or subscribe button, you get a notification in your podcast app when a new Big Blue Box episode lands. You can also listen online over at the website bigblueboxpodcast.co.uk. And you can check out the reviews and articles from all the writing team over there as well. And also, don't forget to remember to check out Adam's YouTube channel. It's The Geek's Handbag.
The Geek's Handbag. I was just working on a new vid before we started recording as well. I'm doing some stuff while I'm out here in the US. So check out my channel, The Geek's Handbag, on YouTube. Good old YouTube.
Not TikTok, but he's on the other socials.
I did do one. I did my first TikTok in like months yesterday. Yeah, I felt like I should keep that going so my account don't get shut. Well, I nearly did out here in the US anyway, mate. Trump banned it for like 5 hours, I think, and then it came back. So, yeah, good old TikTok.
Oh, dear. Yeah. So he's under the same name, The Geek's Handbag. Go and nag him about Doctor Who or other geeky stuff. So, Bud, let's crack straight on them. Yes. What we got this week?
Yeah, so we're starting a brand new season, and this episode 1, is called The Robot Revolution.
Match initiated.
Belinda! Belinda! Can someone tell me what the hell is going on? Who's on him? So what's your name?
Just the doctor.
All right then. I'm called the nurse.
You will surrender.
What have you done?
I'm sorry.
The Robot Revolution. It was released, of course, very recently, the 12th of April, 2025. It was had a runtime of roughly 43 minutes-ish when you take off the titles and stuff. It was written by Russell T Davies, directed by Peter Hoare, and was overseen by Julie Gardner, Phil Collinson, Joel Collins, the usual people who are back on Doctor Who. Stars Ncuti Gatwa, of course, as the 15th Doctor. New companion, Belinda, Viradu Sethu, and I don't know, about half a dozen supporting cast members on it.
Whose names I'm not going to remember. Just listener, just nothing. Some things never change.
Yeah, as always, we'll go through and get that all wrong, of course. But the synopsis for this one is: when robots from outer space kidnap nurse Belinda Chandra, the Doctor embarks on an epic intergalactic quest to get his new friend back home to Earth. So short and sweet there. And as usual, we will go over to you, my good buddy. What are your thoughts out the gate for this season 2 kickoff episode?
Well, mate, I must admit, I had to put a bit of baggage aside before I watched this. I wasn't really in the mood, to be honest. So I've seen the trailers and I thought they looked exciting, but I wasn't feeling that buzz that I normally get of a new series of Doctor Who. So I plonked it on. Obviously, I'm over in the US, so it's Disney Plus. I plonked it on when I got in on Saturday night. And but yeah, what I'm basically trying to say is my expectations were very low. I think I'm still scarred by space babies, to be absolutely honest with you, because and what I mean by that, and I'm kind of being serious about it, I felt so dejected after watching Space Babies. I was so deflated. But you know, that I didn't want that feeling again. And knowing that this series was filmed sort of back to back with season 1, I thought, oh God, it's not going to be another, you know, I'd seen like a few preview clips. It's not going to be another Space Babies. Is it really sort of silly and awful? And I just didn't want that feeling, mate. So I sort of had to kind of put all that to one side before I was ready to watch this. I thought there's no point going into it with a negative attitude. You've got to just clear your mind, right? So I come in, sit down my other half. I said, come on then, let's get Doctor Who on. Let's see what it's like. And I wouldn't say I loved it, but I did get to the end of it and say, yeah, I kind of shrugged and went, yeah, that was okay. And I know that's a bit on the fence, but I'm just almost relieved that I didn't have that Space Babies feeling and that I didn't not enjoy it, if you know what I mean. Don't get me wrong. I have lots of issues with it as an episode. So I'm sorry to be a bit on the fence and say it was okay, but that's exactly how I feel about it. It finished. We had a couple of little smiles throughout it. I thought it was a sort of almost typical RTD opening episode. It was fluffy with a very paper thin story. It had some fun moments, some good some fun robots. It looked great production wise, and it was just an introduction really to the new companion, which I think it did a fairly good job doing. So yeah, I know it's not exactly the sort of most critical thing to say, but I'm just saying it was okay. I thought I enjoyed it for the most part, but I do have issues with it. And there is one thing I really, really didn't like, which I will get to. And I know a lot of people have picked up on this, so you probably know what I'm going to say. But overall, mate, I'm just going to sum up by saying I mostly enjoyed it. I didn't think it was great, but I didn't think it was bad. It's very much a mid episode for me, and as a season opener I would have liked for more, but because my expectations were low, it kind of just sat where I thought it was going to sit, and at least it didn't sink any lower. So it was okay. It was just fun, I thought, for the most part.
It was okay.
It was okay. I know. I don't really. I wish I could think of a better way to sum up my feelings, because that sounds so rubbish as a review. You can't imagine that on the season 2 box set, can you? It was okay. The Geek's handbag. But that's exactly how I feel about it. So I'm just sort of saying it how it is, mate. It was okay.
Cool. Gotcha.
Over to you. What do you think of it?
Yeah, I'm along the same kind of lines as you on that one.
Okay.
On the thought process, I think as a season opener, did it blow my socks off? No. Was it a great episode? No. Was it a bad episode? No. It was just an okay.
It's exactly where I am. Exactly where I am. Yeah.
And the reason why I say that is because it felt a little bit, and I've watched it twice now. I watched when was the 12th? It was on Saturday, wasn't it?
Saturday.
Yeah, Saturday just gone. So I watched it on iPlayer, I think around lunchtime on Saturday. And then I watched it again. Me and wifey watched it a while ago, Mrs. Blue Box. We watched through it just before we started recording, actually. So on the second time round, I would probably say I didn't mind it as much. I think it would be wrong to say that I enjoyed it more than the first viewing. I think I just didn't mind it as much. There wasn't as much head scratching on that second one, of course, because your mind has already, decided that, yep, I get those bits and I get that bit. So you're concentrating a little bit more on the bits that you were confused around the first time. So yeah, I think it was all right. It was all right. I think, like you and a lot of Who fans, we were kind of a bit burnt out with some of the repetitive stuff from season 1. And what I mean by that is the, shoot his doctor crying all the time, and all these sorts of, the quality of the writing, and for some episodes, and just that predictability of like, unfortunately, I think for a lot of Who fans, not all Who fans, of course, but for some Who fans, I think, and us are included in this, we kind of got to that point where it was like halfway through season 1, it was like, yeah, we need to have a good episode here. Instead of thinking, wow, coming off the back of last week, I can't wait to watch the next episode. I don't think we felt like that. I think it was just, let's watch Doctor Who. Hopefully it will be good. Fingers crossed it will be great. So I feel like this episode is kind of, it would have sat very nicely within season 1. This could have been like episode 4 of season 1. It didn't have that big epic opening feel that you would, I don't know, not that it needs to be sort of huge and epic in every sense of the word, but I didn't get that feeling like, wow, like we're off in a slightly different direction. We're off in a different vibe here than season 1. Season 2 is off with a bang. I didn't feel that. I just felt like it was an okay, bit of a mid-season episode.
Exactly, mate. And that's the thing. When I said I was slightly relieved, one of the things I've been worried about with this season is that in terms of recording reviews and the podcast, is I was really worried that this season is going to not hit the mark with me. And I don't want to be coming on here every week and being negative or saying I don't enjoy it. Now, unfortunately, that could still happen. But at least with the first episode, I thought, when I say relief, I thought, good. Oh, well, at least I'll be able to go on and say, I enjoyed that one for the most part. And, because I am worried about that. I think that's unfortunately where I am personally with Doctor Who at the minute, is I don't go into it with excitement because we've got a new series. I do, but it's sort of overshadowed with a bit of sort of trepidation. I go in thinking, oh God, am I going to be moaning about it? And I don't want to be moaning about a show that I love. So that's what I meant when I said I had relief. Just quickly, bud, I like the fact you watched it with your partner, because I always love to get like the, in brackets, casual viewer, perspective, because I watched it with my partner as well. And again, that can go two ways, because when we watch Space Babies together, we don't watch Doctor Who together that much anymore, but it's nice when we do. And with Space Babies, I was cringing the whole time. This time, we were sort of laughing and smiling at the same moments, which is quite nice because it enhances your viewing experience. So I was quite pleased that he was enjoying it as much as I was at the moments we enjoyed, if you know what I mean. So I don't know, did you get the same from Nat, your partner? Did she enjoy it? What sort of vibe did you get from her about it? Because I love to get the casual viewer's opinion. Yeah,
so it's always like when I watch it with Nat, it's always it's a good yardstick, because she's the quintessential kind of enjoyed Doctor Who at its peak. And what I mean by that is like David Tennant's series 3 and 4 and the specials and stuff. That's her sort of go-to. Like if you gave her a shelf with all the DVDs or Blu-rays from 2005 to now and said, right, pick a couple off the shelf that you really like, she would reach for David Tennant, series 3 and 4, that sort of thing. And everything else after that, she fell off very quickly. Mm-hmm. I would say, as Matt Smith's era started to, she dropped off. She's not really, she likes Matt Smith in other things, but she's not too fond of him in Doctor Who. She sort of takes it or leave it. And then certainly 100% with Capaldi, she's gone. Like,
she's out of that.
She's had enough of all that. Yeah. So, so she's a good yardstick, like you said, for sort of the casual fan. And I have to say, because I sat down and I said, right, I'm just gonna quickly zip through this. I wasn't even planning to watch it from start to finish in completion. I was just going to zip through some of the scenes that I wanted to recap on specifically. So I sat down and said, I'm just going to zip through this because I'm reviewing it. And I started watching it, and she was hooked. Like, she started to watch it, because I reached for the remote and started to fast forward it, and she gave me that look like, what are you doing? Sort of go back. And so I said, okay, we'll watch it. So she actually watched this one from start to finish. She commented on a few things. She was quite into it. So for the casual fan, from her point of view, I think she mostly enjoyed it. I don't think she's itching like we are to watch the next episode. If she missed it on Saturday, she wouldn't really lose sleep over that. But she was reasonably engaged.
Yeah,
from start to finish.
That's the reason I asked, mate, because the reason I like to get casual viewers' thoughts is because they don't go into it and analyse it like us Doctor Who fans do. So I just always find it interesting for someone that does just sit down and find themselves watching an episode. Does it engage with them? Does it still do that? This is a 60-plus-year-old show. So that's why I always like to talk to other people that perhaps are not so, looking at every sort of aspect of it like us Doctor Who fans do, to just get an almost like clean slate, like I said, put the baggage aside opinion of the episode to see where it's hitting.
Yeah. So, you're absolutely right. I think it's, because we said this many times, we will, what's the best way to put it? It's like a busman's holiday for us in a way, because we're always watching it with like two sets of eyeballs.
Yeah.
We've got that. It's a blessing and a curse in a way as well, because we're watching it, trying to enjoy it as a fan, but then at the same time, I don't know about you, but I always have this thing like, right, I must remember that because we talk about it on the review, and I must remember that. And so, which is why we've never done those, like a lot of other podcasters and YouTube channels, they will put a review out like 10 minutes after the episode.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with that, but from our point of view, it's well, in my opinion, it's never a true representation of how you feel, because, you're coming off of just watching it and there's a little bit of a high because you've just watched it, and regardless of how you feel about it, whether you loved it or hated it or whatever, your emotions are sort of cranked up a little bit because you're just coming off the back of watching it. So we've always gone down the train of thought of you just let the dust settle just a little bit, sort of collect your thoughts, do you know what I mean, and reflect on it, and so, which is why multiple viewings and getting points of view from other people that we live with and stuff is really important. So how did your other half take it then?
Yeah, that's what I mean. I was, I think that made me relax when I've sort of heard little chuckles and, moments, like some of the, because some of the dialogue was pretty terrible in this, but some of that dialogue made him laugh. And I thought, so it's that's what I mean. If it was appealing to him, which it seemed to be, I thought, that's good. I like the fact he's enjoying it, and it made me enjoy it a bit more, I think. As I said, compared to Space Babies, where we're both sat there like, this is terrible. We both look at each other just shaking our head. It was nice to sort of be, sort of smiling and laughing at certain moments during the episode. So,
yeah, no, I read you. Before we get on to any sort of little hiccups, perhaps, in the episode, anything we weren't so fond of, I just want to rattle off a few things that I felt were very good. The first one, again, I don't know how it's possible, but they do this every single season, and that the visual quality of it, the cinematic feel and the visual effects, that seems to ramp up every season in very small increments. Since Shooty, since probably, it's hard to gauge with like the Eccleston and Tennant stuff because that all looks very, very similar. But when you've jumped into Matt Smith's era, you can see that there's a little bit of a jump up.
Absolutely.
In visual quality, and then the same thing happened very slightly, but you can see it sort of creeping up again into Capaldi, but you definitely saw it into Jodie's stuff.
Yeah.
And then now we're in this season, it's gone up again. And so some of the scenes, some of the visual quality, it's just amazing. Like you can tell that the cinematographers and the production people, all those, it's just so good. And so a visual treat for the eyes on this one. And I really like the visual style as well. I'm a bit of I really love that old sort of 50s sci-fi stuff, like
like Flash Gordon.
Flash Gordon, yeah.
Not the film, the old TV show.
The old stuff, yeah. So the set designers and some of the producers, they took inspiration from the film Forbidden Planet.
Oh yeah, that makes sense.
Yep, and also This Island Earth, which is a very old, again, sci-fi sort of thing from the 50s. And it also had, like the yellow rocket ship that came and took Belinda off and the designer robots and stuff. It had a very, Pixar's The Incredibles film.
Yes. Oh yeah.
It had that
I can see that.
Yeah, that sort of retro sci-fi 50s feel. So I love that part of it. Very, very cool. And I loved most of the performances. I think Varada Sethu is, I'm really enjoying her kind of, it's a nice change of pace to have a companion that's not just swept up in the Doctor's sort of energy and stuff like that. This is like the opposite to Rose. It's Rose was just desperate to travel with the Doctor and for more reason than one that we find out a bit later. But she was like, no questions. I'm in for the ride. Let's do it. So it's refreshing to have a companion that's a bit more like Donna. Stand up to the Doctor, not take his rubbish. Not just. Yeah, we'll come on to a scene where those two are like, towards the end where it feels like it's going fairly chummy and it's pretty cool, but then she has a moment of realization and just wants to be taken home and stuff. So that was cool. We'll get on to her in a second. And also really like the little polish robot. Polish. Yeah.
I know why you like that robot, because he sounds like a droid from Star Wars, doesn't he?
He does a bit. Yeah. He does actually. Yeah, now you mention it. So, mate, there was and also I also really liked the effect that when they had the two certificates, and they sort of put them together in the same space. The doctor warned her earlier that, if you put them in the same place, atoms just say no and kaboom and stuff like that. There was a really cool effect when that happened.
Yeah.
It went off into a big sort of trippy thing. That was amazing. That was really well done. So yeah, there was a few things that I really did like about it and those things. But what about you, mate? Anything that stood out that you really enjoyed before we get on to anything that wasn't so good?
Well, yeah, I agree about the production. I thought as an episode, it looked great. I mean, it was quite CG heavy at times, but it looked very good. One thing that's particularly stood out to me was when, the Al was revealed as the cyborg Al, so quite Iron Maiden, it's a bit like Eddie. I just thought the mask, the prosthetics on his face were fantastic. He looked really creepy. So production-wise, I thought it looked really good, mate. And I know we'll talk about Belinda, so I'll wait till we get onto her. But I just thought overall it looked good. I also enjoyed the style of, the design of the robots and the spaceship, which actually surprises myself a little, because I remember like in the Husbands of River song saying how awful the UFO looked. And I think they were going for that sort of retro look, and it didn't work for me in that story. But I don't know, something about this suited the sort of world and the planet that they, had created. So I thought it really suited the style of the episode and the sort of, I've heard people compare it to Sarah Jane's and saying it was a bit goofy and a bit silly, and I absolutely get why people are saying that. I think there is a big element of that to this episode, but for me, it did work. I thought it really suited the story. So yeah, I just thought overall production-wise, it was good, very good. Yeah,
that was production designer Phil Sims, who was working with Russell and said it would be cool to take inspiration from those really old sci-fi. So you can tell the mile off. And
when you said Forbidden Planet, mate, I was like, yeah, absolutely, I can see that now. The old Forbidden Planet film, yeah.
Bang on, yep. It's actually a good film, that old Forbidden Planet film.
I've not watched it for years.
Yeah, it's a bit cheesy, but it's good.
I don't want a bit of cheesy sci-fi.
Yeah, you mentioned it was visual effects heavy. That was one thing that was apparent all the way through. Other than the hospital stuff that they filmed at the beginning.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that, yeah.
When the doctor's chasing after her and can't quite find her. It's other than that, you can tell that pretty much everything else was in front of a green screen. It was very, very green screen heavy, other than the TARDIS sets at the end, and which is obviously a physical thing that used to be.
Yeah.
Oh, it used to be up at Wolf Studios.
I think it still is. I think someone, I don't know, we just don't know.
No, I'm kidding. Yeah. But yeah, it was, that was very green screeny. You could tell that. Pretty much every scene after that, after the bit where she gets taken up into the rocket, up until the end when they're on the TARDIS, I think most of it was some kind of green screen stuff. But that's not a bad thing, but it just felt a little bit, a little bit like they were one step away from you might as well just animate Doctor Who.
I kind of get what you mean, mate, because there's someone who I hate CGI when it's used a lot, especially in Marvel films, because to me, I think my brain's got so used to it that I'm just sat there thinking it's not real, so I'm not a big fan of heavy CGI, but it didn't bother me for some reason during this. I think it was well done for the most part, so.
Yeah.
I just got, I remember, mate, being as we are both cat owners and we love our feline friends, because I'm bound to forget this later on. Did you nearly switch off when that cat got obliterated within the first 5 minutes? I was a bit shocked. I was like, what the heck? What'd that cat do?
Sad times, eh?
I know, because we both, listeners, we both have our cats and they are like our best friends. We love cats, me and Gary. Very much cat people. So yeah, I was horrified by that. But I didn't switch off, obviously.
No, it was, I think it was the first fatality, wasn't it? The cat, the first one to bite the dust, yeah.
It made me want to hit Russell T Davies over the head with an umbrella. It's like, how dare you?
Very sad. Yeah. I'm sure. I think I saw somebody on Twitter say, of course, they were joking, of course, but they put a screenshot of the exact moment when the cat sort of turned, was obliterated. And they said something like, this is it. the straw that's broke the camel's back. Not watching Doctor Who anymore.
I did think that about. I thought this could be it. This could be Gary switching off.
Yeah.
You know, that's the final straw. Russell.
Yeah, no, I read you. Story wise, felt a little bit classic RTD. This one in terms of story, it was just a good old throw in some timey-wimey stuff, if you know what I mean. You know, with the whole the Doctor even says that, doesn't he? He says timey-wimey.
Yeah.
And Belinda's like, what am I, 6? Those little biting comments, mate, they were very cool. And so I think it tries to play on sort of old tropes from Russell back in the day. And because he repeats a few things that we've heard a few times before. Obviously the whole, it's bigger on the inside than it is on the outside. And a timey-wimey.
And the long way round and all that.
Yeah. So it's kind of a little gentle nudge, a little reminder that, you know, Russell's still the Russell of old in some respects. And so story-wise, a little bit timey-wimey with the whole, you know, how did the certificate get there before they did?
Yeah.
You know, and it all comes down to this time fracture, essentially. The Doctor and Belinda travelled through a time fracture. They comically in the episode say, I think it was a schwupp. You know, it schwupped, which is kind of cool. So that was, you know, a little bit thing. But I think the twist, there's always a twist
Always.
at the end, isn't it? Always. I think the twist was the character of Alan back as the, you know, he had been brought to the planet, you know, long before they got there, and has caused this revolution with the robots to be at war with the humans and all that stuff. So he's basically a bad egg. Is Alan Budd, and that leads on to a scene, mate, that I assume that you picked up on. Lots of people picked up on this with Alan's demise, and the Doctor's big celebration of his death, which is an interesting. It's always interesting when they do this in Doctor Who, because you remember we had it with, I'm sure in Matt Smith's, you know, with what's his name? Bradley.
David Bradley's character from the Dinosaurs on a Spaceship.
That's the one, when he was reasonably okay with sending him to his death. Didn't seem too bothered, even though he was a bad egg. Another one, of course. But this is always a thing when this happens, where the Doctor is, because we're so conditioned for the Doctor to be, for the most part, very compassionate, even in the face of someone being a bit of a baddie, always giving them a second chance or a chance to redeem and all that stuff. With this, though, you know, Alan was done, and then the Doctor's dancing around and cheering. And so, what's your take on this, dude? Yeah.
No, it's the bit I talked about earlier where I said it's the one bit I didn't like. And I know a lot of people have picked up on it, so it probably seems like I'm jumping on the bandwagon. But it was the fact they both were sort of laughing and celebrating it. That just thought it just didn't sit right with me, mate. But I will admit, for half a second, you know, when the robot cleaned up the sperm, you know, when it cleaned up Alan, initially for that second, me and my partner both laughed. He said, "It was like, oh God, there goes Alan," and we sort of chuckled. And then I stopped and thought about it, because the Doctor then did a high kick. It was like, yes, and started laughing. And I kind of went from laughing at the scene to thinking, oh no, that's actually, no, I don't think I like that, and I don't like the Doctor celebrating it, because he may have been a baddie, but yeah, he was kind of taken there, and you know, he wasn't really evil and horrible. Well, I suppose he was to an extent, but you know what I mean? Yeah. But I still thought it didn't justify a high kick and a yes queen from the Doctor. I don't know. It just didn't sit right with me. I do agree with people who found that a bit undoctorish. I know we've had it a few times, similar sort of stuff, like you just mentioned that about the David Bradley character. I also think back to a scene with Matt Smith Doctor where Mr. Sweet, remember Mr. Sweet?
Oh yeah,
that little creature, when he was bludgeoned to death and the Doctor just kind of didn't do anything about it. That annoyed me at the time and still does now. So yeah, I'm never very happy when I see the Doctor just not necessarily just letting people go to death, but actually laughing and celebrating about it. I didn't like that bit, mate, I'm afraid. It was probably the low point of the episode for me, in a pretty much mostly enjoyable episode. It just, I'm not going to dwell on it. It's just a bit I didn't like.
Yeah. No, I see why. I see why people are not too keen on that bit. I've got two thoughts on it. The first one is, I think at this point, Alan was so far gone from his human state and his human form. They're not really celebrating the death or the destruction of a person at that point. You know, he's more sort of machine and an android or whatever you want to call him at that point. So I think that's why they weren't too fussed. You know, because if we rewind to near the beginning where the Doctor is talking to Belinda for the first time, and they did this. This is one scene that I really loved. Actually, it's really clever where the Doctor had figured out that there was a fault with the robots, that they couldn't hear every ninth word.
Yeah, I like that idea. Yeah,
really cool that. And so in that scene there, where that leads up to the first kind of rebellion shootout with the robots and stuff, his reaction when Sasha 55 gets killed, he's in pieces. You know, he's really not happy. And so I think that's the Doctor obviously being very doctorish, that we know, you know, with that compassion and wanting to save everybody. So I think when you go to near the end, I think Alan's just not viewed as a person anymore. He's more machine and robot than anything. So maybe that sort of links into why they're not too bothered. Obviously, the fact that he's a right beep, you know, probably played into it a little bit. But I get what you're saying, and what other people are saying is that even if that's the case, which it is, the Doctor's a bit uncomfortable for him to be like that. And then the other thing is that I think they have to be quite careful with the writing here, because for the most part, it was all very sort of science fiction-y, fun adventure, pew pew pew, you know, rebellion against robots and all that stuff. On paper, it sounds wonderful, but the underlying sort of darkness to the episode is essentially Alan's character being, you know, this kind of incel, controlling sort of character. And when we've had, the TV show on Netflix recently, Adolescence, which sort of gripped everybody as being this amazing show, very hard watch, but, you know, is very much around that subject. I think it would be they have to be very careful with how they handle the end result for a character like that. So I don't think you could have, like with the world's consciousness at the moment about the devastating effects of people like that and their influence in the world. I think you couldn't then have the Doctor trying his hardest to save somebody like that, because then you would just have, you know, social media would just be flooded with, like, you know, Doctor saves incel monster kind of thing and all that stuff. So they have to be a bit careful about that side of things. So I think involving that scene and the Doctor's reaction stuff, I think it's just a bit more layered than the Doctor's a bit of a dick for celebrating somebody being killed. I think there's just more to it.
Yeah.
Essentially. Yeah. But yeah, I've seen it on socials, dude. It's a lot of people have picked up on that one thing with the Doctor and Belinda having a good old laugh and stuff. And what rubs salt in the wound, is the little polish robot that comes along
polish.
And that's the end of him properly.
Doing it. Yeah. It's like Gadget, isn't it? Same. Oh yeah. It's another one of sort of Russell's little sort of tropes that's come in this one, of which there are a few.
There are a few. Yeah. Then the other scene that I just want to pick up on, which I didn't think was bad. It was sort of terrible, but I just felt a little bit like, oh, here we go again. Why do we do this? Doctor Who, because it's almost like one step forward, two steps back, where we have this refreshing character in the companion of Belinda, right?
Yeah.
where she's very strong-minded and not a pushover. And we that's evident right from the get-go. It's very cool. But then we have the Doctor saying, "Oh, I can't tell you because, you know, he there's that quote unquote this mysterious he told me that, you know, I would bump into you or whatever.
Yeah.
But I have to be careful with timelines and stuff like that." As soon as he said that, I'm like, "Oh, here we go. Here we bloody go." Like,
Another
why do we
mystery
have
girl.
to? Yeah, why do we have to have this thing where the companion has to be either the most important thing in the universe or, you know, connected to this big plan in some way and all the rest of it? Why can't they just be them? Why can't that be enough anymore? Do you know what I mean? Like,
I do.
I don't mean to be a grumpy old sod, but if we think back to the classic Who days, you know, when the Doctor's kicking around with Sarah Jane or Dodo or Nyssa, Tegan, whoever, you know, they're not part of this massive important cog that the entire series revolves around and stuff. They're just there, like, being cool, you know, being with the Doctor and everything. And we don't have that anymore. The companion has to be this mega big important thing, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I just hope it has a decent payoff, mate. I know exactly what you mean, because it's starting to feel a little bit tired, this whole sort of mystery companion thing again. But yeah, and I guess, I don't know if it's just that they feel they have to explain it because she was in another episode, and I believe she was cast after Russell saw her in Boom and thought she'd be a good companion. I think that's the way it went. It was never like the initial plan. So yeah, it's like, oh, well, she was in that episode, so I better explain it. But you know, back in Classic Who, yeah, we used to have actors appear every other week. I mean, Jeffrey Palmer was in loads, and you know, we didn't question. Hang on, he looks like such and such from 2 seasons back. You know, we just went with it. I think they worry too much about the audience, you know, wanting an explanation. Where, like you said, I think we just want them to get in the TARDIS, go on some adventures. We're not too bothered about that sort of thing. Well, maybe some people are. I don't know, but. I agree with you, but I just hope there's a good resolution to this whole Mundy, Flynn, and, you know, Belinda Chandra question. Yeah.
What do you think to the new companion then, to Verada? Do you think she's off to a good start?
I agree with you. I like the fact it's something a bit different. I mean, I do get like that strong Donna vibes of she's not gonna, you know, she's gonna hold her own, right? So yes, my initial impressions are, I think I like her. The court is still a little bit out with me, mate, because she is a bit stroppy, and you know, I've heard people say she's grumpy and whatever. But I liked what I saw so far. That's what I will say. Like you said, I like the fact she's something a bit new in terms of the dynamic with the Doctor that we haven't seen for a while. Let's put it that way. So yeah, my initial first impressions of her is that I think she's got great potential. I'm hoping we see some good chemistry between her and the Doctor going forward. I saw a little bit of that, particularly the end scene that you talked about. I thought, yeah, they're starting to get to know each other and the way, you know, starting to figure out the way each other works. So I hope going forward they, you know, have some good chemistry. So yeah, I like her so far, but I just don't know. I need to see a little bit more to make up my mind, I think. A bit like with Tegan, you know, she came in and she was moaning and goodness knows what. And it took a while to get to love Tegan, so I feel like there could be a little bit of that with Belinda. We'll see.
We'll see. Yeah. Same thoughts as you on that, bud.
Yeah.
And what about Shooty's performance then? I thought he had I thought it was one of the things that a lot of people said in the run-up to season 2, excuse me, was, especially if you weren't a fan of season 1, was that they were concerned that it wouldn't be different enough and wouldn't push the boundary or go in a different direction enough, because they were filmed pretty much back to back, weren't they? Seasons 1 and 2. And I think that is really evident in Shooty's performance. I think it's literally like we just saw season 1 last week. So not that I'm saying that he has to change up his performance, but if you think about some of the shifts that we had with some previous Doctors that worked pretty well, like, you know, when David Tennant's Doctor sort of morphed into this sort of Doctor that didn't really give a crap for a while, you know, this Time Lord Victorious thing.
Yeah.
You know, he was a slightly different sort of take to a bit darker, and obviously McCoy's Doctor, we saw that towards the end of his run a little bit, and Capaldi's Doctor as well changed from season from so that was a bit. So I'm not saying that has to happen, but it would have been cool for Ncuti just to sort of, you know, look at what worked and what didn't work from season one, and, you know, adapt a little bit and change it up just a little bit. But it just felt like just exactly like season one. And of course we had the teary crying scene. That's becoming a bit of a, unfortunately, mate, that's becoming a bit of a meme now, isn't it?
It is
for his Doctor. So what do you reckon to Ncuti in this one?
Yeah, I mean, I think that is one of the downfalls of of filming series 1 and 2 so close together. Yeah, it hasn't given them time to sit back, reflect, look at what worked, what doesn't work, where do they want to take the series, and that applies to Ncuti's performance as well. Not to say I didn't think he was good in it. I thought he was absolutely fine, but yeah, I agree with you. It didn't make much of a lasting impression, and I guess you could say this episode was designed to introduce a new companion, so she was very much at the forefront of the episode. Absolutely fine with that, but I did think that Ncuti's Doctor got a bit lost. I can't really think of much he did in it, to be honest with you. Mm-hmm. So nothing really wrong with his performance. I absolutely agree with you, mate. I'd love to see him go a little bit, surprise us a bit. That's what I like. I like it when the Doctor sort of surprises us. And I don't mean by laughing at someone dying. I mean by, by being a bit darker and stuff. So yeah, I hear that could be happening. I don't know. I've heard rumblings that they might take his Doctor down the sort of McCoy route. I've just heard rumblings of that, but I don't know if that's this series or if that was something they planned going forward, if it carries on. Mm-hmm. I've no idea, mate, but I'd like to see a little bit of something slightly different from his Doctor going into series 2. Yeah,
agreed. Yeah, defo. Any other performances that stood out? I think just a couple of people to pick up on. We had a guy called Manny, played by Max Parker. He was the guy he was the blonde dude with the muscles that when I saw him, I thought, oh no. Not for that reason, but I thought, is the Doctor going to be, leeching all over him and all that stuff.
See. Oh, I thought you meant because Pex Mark II was back. I thought that's what you were going to say.
No, I thought...
Pex lives.
Pex lives, yeah. And so he was sort of a moody character, wasn't he? Blames Belinda for all this stuff, and he was he was okay. We had old Nick Briggs. He was the voice of the robots.
Oh, was he? I didn't even know that.
Yeah, old Briggsy. And and that was about it really. We had Sasha 55 played by Evelyn Miller at the beginning. She was really cool actually, where she comes across as smiley and welcoming to Belinda, but then on the down low she's like, please help. Untimely death, she was okay. And that's pretty much it. Anita Dobson, just for 30 seconds at the beginning as Mrs. Flood.
I liked her little cameo, mate, I have to say. It's just, I like the look she gives the Doctor when she sees him. It's a really horrible, like, oh, you're here. Like an annoyance, and the way she backs away. What do you think of the talking to the camera that you ain't seen me? Very fast show, wasn't it? You ain't seen me, right?
You haven't seen me.
Normally, I wouldn't like that sort of thing, but it did make me smile.
Oh, I really like it, actually. It's just something that changes up.
Yeah,
something a bit more spice to what's going on. But just very quick interlude here, mate. Me and the rest of the Big Blue Box team were in London a couple of weekends ago for the Capital Cutaway event run by the DWAS, and Anita Dobson was there.
Was she there?
Yeah,
cool.
So we got to see an interview with her on stage, which was really cool. And alas, she didn't reveal anything about who her character actually was, but. In a different interview, she did say that when she found out from Russell who her character is, she said that her eyes have just popped out of her head.
Really?
And she was in awe, yeah. So I think it's leading to somebody that we've absolutely seen before, 100%.
Cool. I am looking forward to that. Does she now live next door to Belinda? That was the other thing I was thinking. Has she moved house, or has she just popped by to borrow some sugar? What's she doing there? Like, why was she next door? So yeah, the Mystery of Mrs. Flood is definitely starting to engage with me more than it did before, I think. So I absolutely love Anita Dobson, and it was, even though she was only in it for a minute, I just thought it was fun to see her. Actually, I'm definitely getting more engaged with that.
Mm-hmm. Yes, yeah. And then Alan Budd, played by Johnny Green. Those of you that know Johnny Green's name, he's done quite a few Big Finish stories.
Okay.
He's played quite a few characters for Big Finish, and he's now on screen. But a really uncomfortable character right from the get-go. And you could see that sort of controlling nature, and Belinda pushes back on that towards the end, when she starts to recap their sort of moments together, earlier on, like I think it was 17 years prior to the events of we were witnessing. And she was like, "You're always correcting me, you're always doing, all that sort of thing." So a bad dude for sure, and an uncomfortable watch. But I think that's due to Johnny Green's performance. I think if he didn't play it well enough, you wouldn't feel uncomfortable, and he would have missed the point. So I thought he was pretty good. Yeah,
he was fine, mate. And I didn't see the twist coming of him but I knew we were going to see him again. I thought they're definitely going to play into that storyline and bring, I felt like he was going to be a villain. I just didn't see him coming back as, Iron Maiden Eddie trapped in that thing. But that was cool. That looked great, didn't it? That not just his prosthetics, but the thing that he was in, that big face. That was great, So yeah, it was cool. Good.
Yeah. I just want to mention Murray's music as well as we start another season again. I think this is not enough time between seasons, mate, for them to just have a bit of a pause and a breather to do stuff, because it wasn't bad. And there was a couple of cool scenes where it felt like a bit of a horror film that you were watching. It did, there was a brass section that sort of did this weird noise and sort of got you in the spirit, I guess. It was pretty cool. But then during the shootout scenes and some of the action scenes, it was just stuff that I'd heard 1,000 times in other action films or stuff like that. So it doesn't sound like quintessential Murray Gold that I think we were spoilt for so many years with back in the day. But it's still not bad. It's just, I feel like he's not being as, I don't know what the word is. He's not sort of taking it by the bull by the horns and making it his own. He's kind of mixing in little bits here and there, but then the rest of it, he's just going down the more sort of generic path with things, but not terrible. But I just feel like, he could also have benefited from having a breather, I think.
Absolutely, mate. I agree, because it's, I wouldn't say he's on autopilot, but there are bits of music, like when they're in the hospital, that, like you said, could be from, any series. It's all jolly and sweet, which in some ways is nice because it makes it feel familiar. It almost sort of takes you back to, like you said, the Tennant days or whatever. It's kind of that. But again, it's a bit too samey. And then other times he really mixes it up and throws in some weird sounds, like when they were doing all the tripping out stuff. So yeah, it's a bit of a mixed bag with Murray, to be honest with you. I feel like he needs to take a few more risks in terms of trying something new.
Yes,
really. Yeah. But so I know what you mean. Nothing wrong with it, but yeah, I mean the stuff in the hospital, it kind of grated on me a little bit, to be honest with you. I just thought, we've heard this kind of jingly, everything's jolly. I don't know, a little bit autopilot, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, it felt a little bit like, Partners in Crime, where...
Yes, that's it, yeah.
Yeah, when they play that very cool little jingle as they're sort of searching for each other and have those near misses. Yeah, that kind of, I know what you mean, mate.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is there anything else, dude, that caught your eye in terms of you loved or you didn't like so much? Anything else before we put a score on this?
No, I do. I mean, I'll just really sort of sum up. I thought, like you said, the storyline in itself, it was pretty thin, but Russell was throwing in some nice ideas, almost perhaps too much. I mean, like you said, I like the robots not being able to hear every ninth word. That's a nice idea. I don't think he handled the actual underlying tone of the whole, toxic masculinity, incel thing that well, but it kind of worked as a story. It just felt like there was lots of ideas being thrown at the screen that perhaps didn't stick as well as they could. But overall, I thought it was okay. The only other thing I've got on my list is I didn't, in terms of writing, a little bit lazy. The Dr. Power shorts out the power in the hospital, probably killing loads of people that are on life support. I mean, again, all it needed was a scene of the lights coming back on and perhaps someone jumping up like the master, going as if they've just regenerated, or Captain Jack, So there were little niggles like that in terms of the writing, whereas I felt like the episode was most enjoyable, but it was also quite clunky in terms of the writing in places. So, but other than that, mate, I'm just looking down my list. No, I mean, the crying thing we mentioned, that's just becoming a thing now, isn't it? You just expect Shooty to cry, and they need to lay off that or edit that out, because that is just becoming laughable. Unfortunately, it has absolutely zero impact. I mean, we hadn't even got to know Sasha, to be honest, to even care that she had died. So seeing him blubbing his eyes out, it was just an eye roll moment. So things like that definitely, like you said, they need to be sort of sitting back and adjusting these things to make the series better, I think, because that is becoming a bit of a joke, the whole crying thing. But apart from that, mate, I don't think I've got anything else on my list. I echo your thoughts on that, dude. A little bit clunky with the editing and the writing in some places. I think we've got used to this sort of breakneck speed running through some parts of the story now, where it's edited so tightly together. It's just that you feel like it's that's not a bad thing, if you're trying to create energy and you want things to feel like you're at a quick pace and stuff. Of course, it's good, but in some parts of the story, you feel like, it would have been cool just to slow that down just a tad. Let it breathe.
Yeah. So I totally get that, man. And the doctor crying thing. I don't know why they keep. I don't know who keeps saying to them. Actually, no. Do you know what? I know why. It's because this was all done before we all saw season 1. Yeah. So they haven't got. They haven't got time to go back and fix that, because now they probably filmed another 7 weeks worth of crying scenes that we can't do anything about. So anyway,
just one last thing. Did you like the cleaner robot? Because that was one of the things I did like, and again, sometimes that doesn't work for me when they go too silly with it. But I kind of liked that little robot, and also I did like the little throwback to Gadget. Polish. It, don't know. For me, it worked. I don't know if it will have worked for everyone, but I liked it.
I loved it, mate.
You did? Oh, cool.
Really cool. Yeah, and again, that sort of old 50s style. Yeah, really, really cool.
Yeah,
very cute. Right, scores on the old doors. Who's going to go first? Is this one where you're sort of umming and ahhing, or have you got a different score?
No, it's not. I know. Sometimes I'm like, I can't decide. No, this was easy. I wrote this down without even hesitation, mate. 6.5 out of 10.
6.5.
Yeah.
Nice. Similar to me, I'm going to give it a 6, mate.
A 6? Okay.
Yeah. I don't know what even on the second watch, I just thought, this is no way this is a 7. But it's not middle of the road. There were some nice things to enjoy in it. It wasn't too bad. So 6, mate. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's just, I hate to use the term so frequently, but it's very mid. And I just thought, 6.5, enjoyable. I'm just glad it wasn't a 5 or below. That would have been very disappointing. Yeah, this was okay. 6.5.
Yeah. And what are your thoughts on next week then? Because we got a little snippet at the end for the old, the cinema, the crazy cartoon cinema villain. What are your thoughts on that? You looking forward to that, or? No?
Yeah, very much so, mate. I think this is the episode a lot of people are looking forward to. And I said earlier, as we started, that I wasn't feeling much buzz by the trailers and stuff. But I have to say, I do have. I am trying not to get carried away and get too excited for it, but I do have a buzz for this week's episode, which is nice. I haven't felt that for a while, but the trailers have actually worked in terms of getting me excited for next week. So this week's, I mean. So yeah, I hope it's good. Yeah. It looks promising. Yeah, it really does. So I hope hope they pull it off and it's a good episode.
Yeah, it looks very creative.
It does. Yeah, it looks visually brilliant. Yeah.
Alrighty then. So that was a 6.5 from him, a 6 from me. And I think we'll close it out there, dude, for episode 420.
Alrighty.
Thank you so much for listening to another episode of the Big Blue Box. That was 420, and our review of the Robot Revolution to kick off season 2. We'll be back next week, as Adam said, for the second episode. Actually, back this week. No, next week. The episode's out this week.
It's confusing.
The episode's out this week on Saturday. We'll be back next week with our review of said episode. Yeah. In the meantime, make sure you're following or subscribing to Big Blue Box in your fave podcast app of choice. That way you won't miss an episode when it lands. At this point, probably every Tuesday or Wednesday as we go through season 2. And also head over to the website bigblueboxpodcast.co.uk. You can link off to all the socials. We're on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, all that stuff, Blue Sky. Come and chat with us over there. And we also have a very cool free Discord server. There's a link on the website. Hop over there, chat Doctor Who. Season 2, Shooty crying, anything you want to talk about, it's all happening over there on the Discord server. And you can also check out more geekery on my co-host channel's YouTube stuff, The Geek's Handbag.
The Geek's Handbag, also on all the socials under the same name, The Geek's Handbag. That is me.
That is him, indeedy. Some really cool unboxings, reviews of products, Blu-rays, cinema trips, the whole lot. It's all on there. Go and check them out. Until next week then, bud. Take care of yourselves, everybody, and remember...